welcome to the show, Chris. How's it going, bud?
Not bad, man. How you doing?
Good, hanging in there. It's funny, you and I are both chilling on FMLA right now, just living the life.
Right? I'm back tomorrow. I'm back tomorrow, man. I'm at my fifth day, man. I'm freaking jumping out of my skin.
Yeah, I hear you. So for those who don't know, Chris has already been on my MJ's, show. Came out, I want to say last November, something around there, for MJ's, October, November, and
Yep.
we sat down and recorded an episode for this show talking about trauma.
hmm
And I went to go release it, and we were just talking about this. But I'll be honest, I put my cards on the table because I'm an honest guy. I went to go release it a few weeks ago, and I was real high on Xanax when we record that episode because I had relapsed. I don't want to do Chris an injustice or the show an injustice and put myself out there like that because it's not pretty. So, luckily for me, Chris and I have been talking and been buddies since then, and he didn't mind recording us again. So I appreciate you sitting down, and show's fancier now. We got the logos and shit. We're fancy. So
Got the
thanks for
logo.
sitting down again, Chris. So usually we talk about clean dates, but we're talking about trauma today. Let's start where you're from.
Yeah. From the Cape originally, Nantucket, Hyannis. I moved all around. I was kind of like, me and my mother moved around a lot, and I lived in a lot of different places for like group homes, foster homes, stuff like that.
Okay, so I used to work at a Best Buy in Hyannis. Did we talk about that before? Did we?
I don't know.
I used to live. I didn't work there full time. I went down there to help out a lot. I worked at the Best Buy in Plymouth. Over in the new complex they got there. Right now it's not brand new now. It's 10 years old now.
Yeah.
I worked there. I worked at the Best Buy in the Kingston Mall back in the day. 20 years ago, October 30th, my first day, I worked at Best Buy for a decade, all over the place. And I was a manager and shit at a bunch of different stores. And I started my first Best Buy on Halloween in 2005. So almost 20 years ago is when I started my little, tour with Best Buy. But that's when they were in the Kingston Mall, and I lived in Carver at the time. And I also lived in Middleborough for a minute.
I lived there too.
And I lived in New Bedford for a minute.
I lived there too.
And my favorite spot that I lived out of all of them was I lived in Plymouth, right on 3A, right by Whitehorse Beach. Kind of right where 3 and 3A meet, right where Whitehorse Beach is over to the left.
Yeah.
We're heading south towards the Cape. And I used to work at the UPS actually, by the Cape too, right at the Sagamore Bridge. There's a UPS right there, a distribution center. And I used to drive there from Carver and do early mornings there. Back when I
worked at I worked at the Amazon over there. That's right by the Sagamore Bridge, a little bit further down.
Okay, but yeah, Amazon didn't really exist like that. I mean, it existed, but Amazon wasn't Amazon in 2005 when I was working down there.
No. I was talking about, I think it was my son I was talking to. I was like, Amazon used to be just books. So when I got locked up and then I got out and I asked my sister, she had something. And I was like, where'd you get that? She's like, Amazon. I was like, the fucking book place? Like, they sell stuff now? And she's like, yeah, they sell everything. So
everything.
Yeah,
it's crazy. So yeah, I mean that's, and for those who don't know, I mean, growing up around there is pretty, I liked it. I didn't grow up there. I lived there off and on from like 18 to like 27.
Yeah,
like back and forth between Jersey and Pennsylvania and Massachusetts. I was going back and forth all the time. I moved over 30 times in 14 years, and a lot of those moves were back and forth to Jersey and Mass. And New Bedford was the worst. That was the worst one for me.
I lived in the South End. I lived in New Bedford on 2 different occasions. The first time I was in the North End, and I was like right in the hood, right off of North Front Street. And then the second time, I was in the hood right off of South First. So both times I was in a real shitty end in the South. Yeah. So I
What's
gotta
fucked
say,
up
yeah.
is I was so high living in New Bedford that I couldn't even tell you what street I lived on or where or anything.
You and half the other people living in New Bedford, man.
Yeah. It's crazy. I went there to sober up, like most of us do, not to move there, but I left Jersey to sober up and moved in with my friend who was like not straight edge. She drank, but like that's about it.
Yeah.
And I wasn't working, and I would see the same car every day at the same time pull into our little parking lot and meet my neighbor, and then he would leave. And I was like, well, he's not buying weed, because if he's buying weed, he's coming in and smoking it. You don't buy weed every day at the same time every day. It's just, it doesn't happen. And I was right. He was buying pills and my drug of choice. And I became friends with that neighbor, and it was on again.
Yeah, man. There it is. There it is.
And I attract to it sometimes, man. All right. So you grew up all over the place. You said in group homes too, and foster homes?
Yeah, I did a lot of group homes and foster homes growing up.
Now, where was your dad at through this?
He left when I was real young. He came back when I was like around, I want to say seven, something like that, 8. He came back for a little bit. He stayed with my mom for, I don't know, not very long. Ended up getting his own place. This was in Hyannis. He ended up getting his own place down in Hyannis. And then he ended up leaving and going back up to Chicago.
Oh, okay.
That's where he's originally from. So, yeah, he was gone for most of my life. And then I didn't see him again until my grandmother's funeral, I'd say 17 years later.
You got brothers and sisters?
Yeah, I got 2 sisters. I got one from my dad. She stays up in Illinois around with him. And then my sister and my brother who I grew up with.
Okay,
yeah,
your sister and your brother are from your mom's side.
Yeah.
Okay. So you don't share both your mom and dad with either of them, with any of the other 3? No. Okay. That's normal though. I mean, that happens so often. It's, it happens more often than not, is what I find when I'm talking.
Yeah. Yeah, it really does.
And where do you fall, like, age-wise with those 3?
I'm the oldest out of all of them.
Oh shit. Okay. So you really, okay. And were you the one that kind of broke through the barriers, like the black sheep, getting in trouble and shit all the time?
Yeah. Yeah. That was essentially everything. Like I used to get in trouble for, drinking, smoking. It's like my sister smokes like a fucking chimney. Like she works at a dispensary and everything, but anytime even when I was grown, smoking weed and stuff, my mom was like, oh, can't smoke, da 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 da. And then like my sister's, she was young at the time, like 14, 15, and had no issue with her smoking. I was like, what the fuck?
Yeah. I mean, what's the age gap? Like, I'm 3 years older than my brother and 9 years older than my sister. What's the age gaps like for you guys? Were you guys close and shit?
Yeah. We grew up all together, me, my brother, and my sister. Me and my brother
with your dad in Chicago.
Yeah, my other sister lived with my dad in Chicago, so I only met her one time.
Yeah.
But my brother, he's 4 years younger than me, and my sister's 5 years, or it's 5 and 6. I don't know what. They're 1 year apart, so it's either 4 and 5 or 5 and 6 years younger than me.
Now, so do those my brother share the same parents?
They share the same parent, yeah.
Now, I've always wondered this. Now, did you find at all like that they had a different kind of bond with each other than they did you because they had the same parents? That dynamic ever pop up, or now you guys live together?
Maybe,
so pretty consistent.
Not really, because I remember their dad, but they don't remember him like that. So it never really, at least on my end, I never really thought about them as like my half brother and my half sister. Like,
so their dad pieced out too.
Huh?
Their dad pieced out. Their dad left.
Yeah, their dad was. Yeah, he had some issues, so he didn't last long. But he wasn't around. It was mainly my mother raising us, you know. But I think me and my brother kind of had a closer bond because we were more into the same stuff. We were
Yeah.
into like wrestling, you know, we were into like the same music and all that. We all were, but me and my
Mm.
brother were really into wrestling, and that's kind of the first thing that really, really bonded us.
How old are you?
38. I just turned 39 actually, like a week ago.
Oh no, happy birthday. I'll be
Yeah.
39 September 29th.
Oh, there
So
you go, man.
we're
Hell yeah.
exactly the same age as shit, bro.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, I get it. Wrestling was huge in the 90s. Like
Oh
it was
yeah.
all over the place. Like that shit was amazing to watch at our age growing up in the 90s. Like with were you a WCW or WWF guy?
So originally, my grandfather got me into wrestling, and
Mm,
he was WCW. So we would. I grew up. I was watching, Boss Man. I was watching Ric Flair.
mm.
But then we did do WWF. There was, Hulk Hogan and stuff like that. But when the Attitude Era came, when I started watching again in the '90s, and the Attitude Era came, that I was all WW. I didn't really mess with any WCW at all.
Yeah. Yeah, I was WWF and ECW. I liked watching the crazy shit in ECW.
ECW, yeah, a lot of
Yeah.
people don't remember ECW, man. ECW was like the wild shit. You know, you'd see
Yeah, I used to
people.
go to a bunch of events in South Jersey where I grew up. There was always a bunch of ECW events all over Philly and shit.
Oh no shit.
And one of my best friends, his dad was always game to take us to events.
Hell
So
yeah, man.
we grew up going to the events where like you're in a gymnasium, and the chairs are
Yeah.
just around the ring and shit, and the old metal fold
Yeah.
out chairs, and just have a blast on a Friday night watching some ECW wrestling. Like that was that was our shit back in the day. And then
Yeah.
eventually, I got way too into drinking and going out to ever be home to watch it. I was never home to watch wrestling. I was never home to watch anything because
Yeah.
my priorities were straight up. I need to get drunk. I need to get high. I don't want to. And it's not like I had a bad home life. My parents were amazing. Brother and sister got along with them. I wanted to be out and be my own person and explore and get into mischief and fuck around and find out. You know what I mean? Like, and
Yeah.
I never wanted to miss anything. I never wanted to go to school the next day and be like, "Oh, you missed what happened last night." That FOMO. Was, and especially
Yeah.
because cell phones weren't around growing up when we did. So if you missed that shit, you missed it.
Yeah.
No one
Yeah.
got it on their recorded on their phone. No one put it on TikTok or Instagram or some shit. You missed it.
Yep.
So no, I was always out, and it was that's just how it was. Why were you bouncing around group homes and shit back in the day?
I got taken away on a couple different occasions. I think the first time I had gotten taken away was so the school that I went to, I was living in Hyannis at the time. My mother, she struggled with mental health issues when I was younger as well. Growing up, she struggled with depression and anxiety, and I didn't know it, you know, now. I didn't know it back then, but like looking back now, it's like, oh, okay. It's one of those things we don't really talk about. But she struggled with depression. So one day she was asleep. I had to be up and ready for school. And, I was old enough I could walk. The school was up the street. I lived on Fresh Holes, and Hyannis High East was down the street. So I went to the elementary school. I could walk there. And one of the days that I went, I'm young, so I threw on a pair of sweatpants. I put no drawers on underneath, so I was just free falling in some
Free balling that
sweatpants.
shit.
Yeah, and I
How
guess there
old
was
were
a
you?
hole in the back of the sweatpants.
Yeah, how old were you?
At that time, I was
7,
probably like 8.
8, 7, 8. Okay.
Yeah, 7, 8. But
Mm.
I went to school, they had no drawers on, had a hole in the back of the sweatpants, and it turned into like this huge thing. Like the teacher came up to me and she was like, I can see through your sweatpants and I can see you don't have underwear on underneath. And I'm like, okay. But
Yeah.
they ended up pressing like neglect charges against my mother because of that situation. And then, I was getting in trouble too. I was doing a whole bunch of shit that I wasn't supposed to be doing, but not to the extent. Back then, they kind of took you away for like they would just take you. They would take you. Like nowadays, it's you got to really really fuck up to lose your kids.
Yeah.
Like you really have to fuck up. Back then, I feel like there was like I shouldn't have been taken away for a lot of the reasons that I got taken away for. But they pressed neglect charges, and I think at the time my mother was going through some mental health crises. Um, she had
And
went to go to Nantucket.
Let's be real, mental health crises were handled so much differently back then than they are now.
Yeah. Yeah.
Back
mental
then,
health wasn't looked at.
You get a mental health charge, neglect in the 90s, you're a criminal. You're not somebody who's sick and struggling. You're a criminal and you don't deserve shit. There was no remorse for anybody who was sick back in the 90s,
No.
And
not at all.
Before that, obviously. But that really didn't start turning a corner until like 10 years ago, bro. That shit was still like, you're a criminal and you're a bad person if you have to deal with mental health. You're weak. You're less than. Until like, I want to say 2015, 16, like 10 years ago. It hasn't been a long time where people actually, actually listen to people and, take into consideration that people are dealing with a lot of shit these days when it comes to mental health. Not even just addiction, just mental health in general. Like, like right now I'm on FMLA for a month for mental health. That shit never would have passed 10 years ago. You couldn't go on FMLA for mental health, need a mental health break for a month. Like, and now I can. Thank fucking God I can, because I need that shit, or else I wouldn't have a job because I wouldn't be able to do it anymore.
Yeah.
So
they don't understand how bad, depression, anxiety, that shit gets to people, man. It really does. And then it affects your home life. And then it turns into a situation where, like, okay, now this is an unfit parent. The story that I was told, because I ended up asking my social worker, and the story I was told, she was like, oh, your mother went back to Nantucket and she asked somebody to watch her house. And the person was selling drugs out of my mother's house, and the house got raided and stuff. And I'm like, that doesn't really.
That doesn't add up.
Like, that doesn't add up. It didn't add up to me because, first of all, they would have had to been laying on my mother's house for a while. And I know back in the day, my mother did
stop that quick.
Well, there was, so we lived in a drug infested area. If you anybody who knows the Cape knows Hyannis, Fresh Holes in the 90s was a very like drug infested area, especially Fresh Holes. And I lived right in the middle. I was at 22 Fresh Holes. So where I was like kind of like epicenter of where all the drugs and shit were. I remember seeing a lot. Like, my mother didn't do drugs. She was straight edge. She didn't do drugs. But my father was an alcoholic. Her friend was a drug addict. And so she would always have people in and out of the house. I knew a lot of the people. As I got older, I found out, I'm like, oh, that person's a drug addict. That person's a drug addict. Like, one of my friends, one of her friends, he's actually been clean for a while now. We used to call him Drop Top Daryl. Daryl Enos. And I remember one day he came by at like 3:00 in the morning looking for my cousin. My cousin was a drug addict. He actually just passed a couple years ago. And yeah, like, so my mother was surrounded by like drug addicts, drug users, drug dealers, and stuff like that. But she never did any of the stuff herself. So that's what all of her friends were.
Yeah.
So there could be, it's a possibility that something, they might have been leaning on the house for a little bit, but I don't know. Maybe it was a company that she had. Maybe it was stuff like that had happened. But we ended up getting taken away. Because I knew it wasn't just me, because my brother and my sister ended up getting taken away not too long after. So
I was just gonna ask, did they keep you guys together or no?
Did
they keep your brother and sister together because they had the same parents?
Kept them together and they moved.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say.
Yeah. So it was kind of like one of those situations where it was like, really? And my brother and sister were literally right up the street from my aunt, where the foster home that they were in. So it's like my mother was able to see them because like she would just go to my aunt's house. I was all the way up in Boston and Jamaica Plains in a place called the Italian Home for Children.
Jesus, at 8?
I think that was 10. I was
Okay,
when I got taken away, I was gone for like 3 years.
shit.
Yeah,
And
I did
take
like
you
10 months.
all the way up to Boston, huh?
Well, I did 10 months in this place called the Key Program. It's called RFK now. It's in Yarmouth. It was like this old like Mexican style building. And it was one of those placement programs where they keep you there till they find out where you're going next. And at the time I
Mhm.
was there, I was the youngest person to ever be there because I was like 8 years old. And then I was also there the longest because you're only supposed to be there for like a month max. I was there for 10 months
Jesus.
while they were trying to figure out where I was going. From there, they sent me to Boston to the Italian home, and I was at the Italian home for a year. And then from there, they sent me to a foster home in Falmouth, and I was in that foster home for like a little over a year.
So they sent you back down to the Cape, then down to Falmouth from
Yeah,
Boston. So were they having trouble placing you because of your age?
I don't know. I
Okay.
was young, so I never really asked. I never
Were you
really
getting in
asked at the
trouble then?
time. I mean, when you get taken away, you act out. It's like one of those things where it's like, as a kid, I didn't get into any more trouble than your average kid. It wasn't like I was doing crazy stuff. I wasn't in like I know kids nowadays that are like stabbing kids with pencils, biting them and shit. Like they've been menaces
Yeah.
since they were
Yeah.
young, and they're not getting taken away, put in homes or nothing like that. But this was the '90s, so you know that's just how it was. And this
It's
is also
crazy.
the
When I think of the 90s, I think of like a dark cloud over top. Like I just think, when I think of 80s, I think of like bright colors and shit but when I think of the 90s, I just think of like a dark cloud, like hazy kind of evening, like just darkness for some reason. Like just it was a different kind of time. And it's right before everything was monitored cell phone wise, and
yeah,
I could be out all hours of the day and my parents would have no idea where the fuck I was. 10,
yeah,
11, 12, 13 years old, in the late 90s, and cell phones weren't out yet, especially for kids.
yeah.
And our 7th, 8th grade, 12, 13, 14 years old, not only was I drinking every day daily, um we would get into trouble and like fuck with the cops, or what did you call this game, manhunt or jailbreak?
Oh, it was Manhunt.
Yeah, we played manhunt, and we would all get dressed up in black and play manhunt in the streets and shit, like.
Yeah.
And I wasn't getting home even on a school night till 11 o'clock at night in 7th or 8th grade.
So Manhunt was my neighborhood. When I lived in Taunton, I lived on
Okay.
Sumner. I lived on Sumner Street. And Manhunt was done in my neighborhood, so I didn't really have to go far. If my mother needed me, she would just yell outside. But
Mhm.
yeah, like basically the entire Sumner Street, the whole thing was Manhunt. And I actually got in trouble one day. There was this Portuguese chick that used to stay up at the end of the road, and her mother never let her out. And one day she finally came out for a game of Manhunt. And if you know anything about Portuguese girls,
I know a little bit. I lived in Massachusetts. You know that.
yeah,
I lived
I
in New
was
Bedford. I lived in New Bedford, bro. Remember? So
yeah,
yeah, I
oh,
know
yeah. So
about.
yeah.
I
So
lived with
she
the
came
Portuguese
out,
girl. I lived with the Portuguese girl.
yeah. So she came outside for the first. She was always inside. All you saw her was
Hmm.
like get off the bus, go home. Her mother
Hmm.
never let her out. But the one time she came outside, I'm like, damn, what's all that movement back there? So, so I ended up getting in trouble because I convinced her to sneak into my room. And my mom comes knocking on my door, and she was like, "Do you got some girl in here?" And I get all the kids ratted me out and said that the girl came in with me, and like she jumped out the window, and it just turned into this whole mess. But it's like when I say I was getting in trouble, I was doing stuff like that. So I
Yeah.
mean that's like average kid trouble,
The
like
stupid shit that you get into as a teenage, as a adolescent. I call that adolescent. You know what I mean? Like
yeah,
that's not even a teenage years. That's adolescent. That's when you're, trying to push the limits, see what you can get away with, and I totally get it. Yeah, it makes, and like what year? I'm trying to think of we're the same age. We're a month apart. So that's
yeah,
I know exactly the times you're growing up in, and I think
yeah,
it's awesome. I don't remember that from before. So like I started drinking at 11. When did you get into like what was the first for you, drinking or smoking?
I did both at the same time.
Okay.
Because the people who I hung up. So when I got out of the foster home and I went back with my mother, we moved back to Nantucket,
Mm.
and right away I linked up with my the little crew that I would go on hanging out with throughout the rest of my time out there, and they were already drinking and smoking.
Okay.
So when I met up with them, they're like, "Oh, you want to try some weed?" And this is how long ago it was. So they bust out the can, and they pull out the can, and they had me hit the weed and stuff, and I was like, "Oh, I like this." And then back then it was like shitty ass like mids,
Mids,
like
yeah.
like all the stuff that the kids like my son he smokes and stuff, and like I don't think he's ever smoked mids a day in his life. Like
I don't think
everything
they
he
even know
gets
what
is
mids are, bro.
yeah. If I wanted to find, if somebody held a gun up to my head and they were like, "Yo, find me some mids," I'd die.
Yeah,
You can't even find that shit nowadays.
back
You know?
what we had in, I grew up right outside of like South Philly, Camden in Jersey.
Okay.
And what we had, mids, KB, and Dro.
Yep. And Dro. Yep.
Yep, those were the
Yep.
three grades that you get, and KB was like middle. Which is funny that KB is the middle when mids is like mid, but that
Yeah.
was bottom.
Yeah. Mids was actually dirt, but it came
Dirt.
in levels. You like came in levels because you had that old school Mexican brickweed, the brown
Yeah.
shit that used to come in like the
Uh-huh.
tinfoil.
Yeah.
Yeah, with like you when you finish pulling out all the seeds and stems, you buy an eighth and you pull out all the seeds and stems, you're left with like a dub.
Yeah. I started drinking at 11 and smoking weed at 13. I started
I started
smoking
both at
weed
13.
and I started smoking cigarettes at 13 too.
Yep.
And black I started with Black and Milds. I learned how to inhale with a Black and Mild.
Oh, so a
And
cigarette wasn't shit for you then.
yeah, the cigarette was nothing. I actually switched to cigarettes because I was smoking so many Black and Milds in a night. I was like, it's going to be safer for me to switch to cigarettes than
Yeah.
keep on smoking because I was inhaling entire packs of Black and Milds in a night. And just chain smoking Black and Milds, bro. Like 13 years old, I should not be doing that shit.
Yeah.
And so I switched to cigarettes, as like a responsible teenager. And
Yeah.
my bedroom at my parents' house, because my parents never touched a cigarette a day in their lives. Brother and sister, never. My dad, he liked an occasional cigar. Same with my brother. But I say that because growing up, we lived in a tall house, and it was three stories, and the third floor was an attic. They converted into a bedroom for me, and the steps to go up to there were really fucked up, and my parents hated going up those steps. I can count on one hand in 9 years how many times my parents went up my steps. So when they converted it, there was also a room off to the side that they turned into a walk-in closet, and it had a window. So I would go in there late at night. I would have my bottle of whatever, whiskey, bourbon, Jack, whatever it was. I had a bottle of something, vodka, and I would go into that room. I'd block off the doors, have the window wide open. I would
Yeah.
champ a Black and Mild and stuff it with weed, and I would smoke that, and then I would smoke a cigarette, chill in there, and just listen to music and shit because there was no texting and scrolling on your phone and shit. This is
Yep.
1999. This is like I had a phone. I had like my own phone line where I could talk to people on the phone when I was getting drunk in there. But that was a Tuesday night for me at 13.
Yeah.
Like out of control, bro. Like out of control already. Now, when you discovered drinking and smoking, it was more, because of the thrill of you like the way you like the feeling it produced, right?
Yeah. Because when I used to smoke, like for me, the first time I would smoke, I would hit, I would smoke my weed, right? And then all of a sudden, it was almost like I don't want to say I would black out, but
Yeah.
it was almost like kind of like a light would switch, and then all of a sudden I would just be like, "Oh, I'm high now." Like it wasn't like a gradual, like, "Oh, I'm getting there, getting there. Okay, now I'm high." It was like I'd be sitting there chilling normal, and all of a sudden, like I would just like come to the realization, like, "Oh, I'm high." Like, you
Yeah.
know what I'm saying? So it was that, and then the drinking was just kind of the same thing. I like Yeah, you chase those feelings. You never get high like you did in high school. You never do. Like when you first start, you're always kind of just chasing that feeling of how high you. I remember one time I was on probation, so I took a break out from smoking for like a year, and then I came back and I told my boy, I was like, yeah, man, I just got off probation. He's like, oh no shit, come downstairs, we're smoking. And these dudes had exotic shit. They didn't have, they had like some shit that you would smoke right now. They had some fire. And we
Yeah.
smoked a whole blunt after me not smoking for a year. And I remember sitting there and I was so fucking high, bro, that I felt like I was leaning forward and shit. Like I felt like my body was going forward. I felt like my body was going backwards.
Yeah.
And I was just like, yo, I'm fucking high as shit right now, bro. And like I was never able to recreate that shit ever in my
Yeah.
lifetime. You
Yep.
know?
I do. I totally like the first time I did an opiate. I actually figured out it was October 17th of 2008. I was able to pinpoint the date because I knew around about time, and I did the math recently, and that's what I came up with. It was October 17th, 2008, and I just turned 22, and I had my own place in South Jersey, and everyone like I had the apartment that everybody would hang out at and smoke and hang out and then go to the bar because everybody else lived with their parents and at that age except me, and they would come over and hang out in my apartment. And did you ever realize like that before elections there'd be a drought? Did you ever realize that? Like during election season
with opiates and stuff?
With weed. Like I'll paint the picture for you. It was October 2008. There was a drought because the election was coming up with Obama. The Obama election was November 2008. And we couldn't get weed for like 2 months in South Jersey. Like everyone's weed came from Mexico. So, and the borders were being tied up because of the election coming up. Everyone was trying to like be on their best behavior. And so my weed dealer was chilling at my apartment, and I was like, hey man, I gotta try. You got anything? He's like, no, all I got are these, perk 10s. They're $10 each. I'm like, fuck it, I'll take 2. And then everybody left. And dude, that $20 high, I've spent $300-400 on pills in a day and never been as high as I was that day on that $20. Like,
yeah, if you did a full tour, because I remember the first time I did any type of opiates, because at the time I know, so the drought that you're talking about, we didn't have it with weed, we had it with coke, and that's actually what ended. That's actually what, and that drought put me in prison. So we ended up having that drought because the dude who was supplying like most of the Cape ended up getting locked up.
Okay.
So everybody was scrambling around. Back then, you used to be able to get an ounce for about 900. It jacked up to 1,500 because there was a drought. So the dude who I was staying in a hotel at this time, and the dude a couple doors down, he was like, "Yeah, I got a guy. We're gonna go pick some stuff up in freaking Kingston of all places." So we drove out to Kingston, and the cops were following us. Well, they were following him. They didn't know me. They had no clue what I was doing. When they pulled us over, they didn't even know who I was because I did my shit so discreet. I just ended up fucking with the wrong person. But yeah, at that time everybody was selling crack, taking perks, and smoking weed. Like that was what you did. That was just what everybody was doing. You know what I'm saying? I didn't know what an opiate was. I wasn't until I got locked up that I knew that a perk was an opiate, like a synthetic heroin thing. I didn't know that at the time.
Yeah.
And I feel like a lot of people didn't. So they were popping these pills because that's what everybody was doing at the time.
And everyone was being prescribed them, especially in your area. I mean,
so we were getting them from Florida.
There's a documentary on HBO called Cape Cod, Heroin Town, USA.
Yep, I watched it, and I knew a couple of the people on there.
It's a gripping fucking documentary.
Yeah,
it's a real good look at how the opiate epidemic kicked off. This is like the beginning stages of the opiate epidemic.
It was, and I feel like if it wasn't for that, I would probably be dead or be a full blown heroin addict right now. Because when I
Mm-hmm.
got locked up was the beginning of the epidemic. When I got out, all the people who were making money and popping pills were now heroin addicts,
Yep.
or they were still pill addicts.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, damn, that's insane to me. Like I remember you was just blowing, you know, you was out there. One of my boys, obviously not gonna say his name. One of
Yeah.
my boys, we were at the store, and he came in. He's like, "Yo, what up, bro? Da, da, da. Oh, what are you doing here?" And he's like, "Oh, I'm about to go buy this leather." And I remember watching him spend $1,000 on the Averex leather because at the time the Averex was good. It was a little baby blue Averex leather. I was like, "Damn, okay." And I got out, and same dude, he's a full blown addict. Full blown addict, no money in his pocket, no nothing. I'm
Yeah.
like, damn, bro, you was balling, you had the whip, you had everything, and now, you
Yep.
know, the first time I ever did the pills and stuff, I like it was weird because so me and my boy, the one I got locked up with, he would get a 30 and we'd split it, or he'd get a
Mm-hmm.
15 and we would split it. So I never did a full one to the head, but
Were you snorting them?
yeah,
Yeah.
that's what we were doing. We were snorting
Because
them.
you like coke, so you were used to snorting shit.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it
So
makes
we
sense.
I already know. The only thing that I snorted that I didn't like that I ended up was e-pills because I snorted an
Oh
e-pill one
yeah,
time
fuck
and it
that,
burnt
bro.
the
Yeah.
shit out of my nose. I was like, "What the fuck, bro?" But
Yeah.
I knew
No,
somebody who
I
used to
never
sniff them
snorted an
shits like
e-pill. I
crazy.
always popped them. I always popped the. I never
Yeah, I
snorted.
tried it one time and I was like, "No, this isn't for me." Like it burned, and then the problem I had with e-pills, I don't know what it was, but they didn't get me. I only been high on e-pills once.
Mm.
And I've taken them a bunch of times. Like I remember one time, me and my cousin took some e-pill, and this is how they were real because people were like, "Oh, you probably got sold some fake shit," and I was like, "No," because me and my cousin both bought pills off the same guy. We bought two triple stack Blue Dolphins because that was what everybody fucking had. He took one, I took one. I'm like, bro, I don't feel it. And he's over there rolling. He's like, shit, I'm high.
Yeah.
I'm like, bro, I don't. The one time I ended up getting that E pill actually hit me, I took a triple stack Calvin Klein. And I don't know if it's at the time because I used to mess with uppers. I used to mess with like
Mm.
coke and shit like that.
Yeah.
That the cocaine based one, I didn't know that there was different bases, but the Calvin Klein one was like a heroin based one or dope opiate based. So I
Mm.
took that one and I actually felt that one. I was like, okay, now I actually feel like I took them. I know what people are. I wasn't like
Yeah.
fucked up, but I was like, all right, yeah, no, I can tell.
Have you ever heard of Tusi?
No, it's that.
So, and we'll stop talking drugs in a second and go back to more trauma stuff. So
Yeah.
Tusi, I today, is we're recording on August 27th. I released an episode of MJ's, the addiction show. And back last October, I interviewed this girl from the UK, and
Okay.
she ended up in a coma because of Tusi. And I'm like, what the hell is Tusi? And she said it's pink cocaine. It's like the other name for it. Like here's a picture of it right here.
The fuck is that? Shit look like some
You
Bill
ready
Nye
for
the
what's
Science
inside?
Guy shit.
You ready for what's inside this, bro?
Yeah, what's it? What's that?
It blew my mind when I read this morning because I always want to make it a little fancy before I post it. So I'm like,
Yeah.
okay, well, what is this? Because I know a lot about drugs, obviously. You get a master's degree in drug education when you're an addict for so long that you got to know
Exactly.
it. So
Exactly.
I'm like, what is this Tusi shit made of? So here we go. The key ingredients: ketamine, ecstasy, methamphetamine, caffeine, fentanyl, cocaine, bath salts, acid, and Xanax.
What? That's a smorgasbord of fucking.
It's a party drug too. It's meant for like the parties.
Oh, that's that Jeffrey. You ever see Get Him to the Greek?
You gonna
That's
agree?
that's that Jeffrey shit. That's what that is.
It originated in Colombia. Down in Colombia is where it first was like invented.
Yeah.
It made its way up through Latin America, and then it skipped us and went straight over to Europe, and was really popular in Ibiza, Spain, in the UK, and in Switzerland. And it's only really popular here in LA, Miami. Crazy shit, dude. Crazy.
Fuck that. That don't even sound like some shit that's appealing to me.
No. So, you were getting into trouble. Were you getting into trouble in your teen years with like cops and shit now? Like,
it started at age, literally, when I say age 13, I started everything. Well, it was basically age 12 going into 13. Mm-hmm. I started everything. I started drinking, started smoking cigarettes, started getting in trouble with the law. The first charge I ever caught was threatening to commit a crime. I had threatened somebody. I had threatened to kill somebody, and they charged me with that. But then I ended up getting a reputation, so I ended up getting a bunch of this sounds bad when I say it with no backstory, but I ended up getting like a trespassing order against the high school, the elementary school, and the boys club. It was all like one line, because there was the boys club was here, the high school was next, then the elementary school was right after that. Like if I was walking to go hang out with my friends, I would walk through all three of those from my house.
Yeah.
I ended up, because I had such a bad reputation, they would put trespassing orders against me. Like I remember one day I was walking through the Boys and Girls Club, and they were like, "Oh, we don't want you on the property." I was like, "For what?" I didn't do anything on the Boys and Girls Club property. I didn't do anything. I got in trouble in at the high school because after school I stayed in the high school after school, like hanging out with like a couple of my friends and stuff like that. And they ended up putting a trespassing order against me on the high school. And then they did the same. Because the high school did it, then the elementary school and all the rest of the schools did it.
Yeah.
And then the Boys and Girls Club did it. So it was all literally I never did anything on those properties for them to do that.
Well, you know what it is too, is they want you to fuck up.
Yeah, and fuck up I did.
Yeah, they want you to fuck up, and they want to have more opportunities to be able to throw the book at you and put you away into a juvie, off the streets, and feel like they're doing a service to the community because you're such a harm to and you're not. You're just some lost kid trying to fucking figure shit out.
Yep.
And you needed some guidance, not to be thrown around in fucking institutions and all over the place. Like that's not going to give you guidance.
No, it fucks you up more.
More angry against the system to rebel more.
Yeah. I went through the same shit. I'd catch a new charge. I would get locked up. I'd go in front of the judge again like a couple weeks later, get let out, probation extended, or they would put me on a QOF, a continue without a finding. Then I'd catch another charge.
They wouldn't even find shit on you. They wouldn't even find shit. They would just throw you into the system.
Yep.
That's fucked.
Charge after charge after charge. My juvenile record, ridiculous. My adult record, ridiculous. It stopped up until I got locked up 2008. Or was it? It was 08, and I never got locked up again. After that was last time I got locked up 16 years ago. 17 years ago.
17, yeah.
Yep. It was September 25th, 2008.
Oh, my birthday. You had just turned 22.
Yep. My son was like 10 months old.
Mm-hmm.
So I got bagged up for trafficking. We got caught up with my boy. It wasn't even my shit. It was his shit.
Were you driving?
I was driving, yeah. They were following him and watching him. And the funny thing is, I was doing my thing 2 doors down from him. We stayed in a hotel. I was staying 2 doors down from him. The cops didn't know who I was, and they were watching him. So basically, he had a CI that was there. I don't know who it was. It was one of the 3 people that was inside of that room. But we ended up, I took him out to Kingston, and on our way back, the police pulled us over. We got caught with possession of, I think it's like 14 to 28. It was trafficking at first. They drop it down to possession with intent afterwards. and I got 2 to 3 years. But because of all the charges that I had previously, I ended up getting a year in jail for those. So I ended up doing a total of 3 years. So I paroled out after 2 years, but because my time was dead time that I was sitting and waiting,
Yeah.
it didn't count towards my sentence. Normally, it would have counted towards my sentence because I'm awaiting trial, but it didn't count because I was serving a sentence for like all the stuff that I was already in trouble for. They just gave me a year as I had a home invasion charge. They dropped it down to a B&E nighttime. I pled
I want to
out.
hear that story again. I remember that story vaguely.
But the home invasion.
Yeah. Well, wait. Let me finish this one real quick because I got a question. What were you trafficking? Is it weed?
No, coke.
Oh, it's coke. Okay.
Yeah.
I was gonna say they were really gonna do that to you over some weed.
No, this was coke at the time. I was selling it. So that's what
But
we're
you weren't
doing.
even on the radar. You just wrong person, the wrong time.
They didn't know who I was. They had
You were
no
fucking
clue
with
who
the
I
wrong
was. I
person.
just gave him a ride
Yeah.
when and he was like, "Oh, I'll give you." He's like, "Oh, I'll give you like an 8 ball out of it," and I was like, "Shit, free 8 ball? Like, yeah, I'll
Yeah.
fucking do
Fuck it.
that."
Yeah. That's a couple $100. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yep.
exactly. So I was like, "All right, I'll do that." Offer at the time, I think 8 ball was going for like $125. So I
Yes.
basically
Okay.
just
Yeah.
gave
Yeah.
up
It's
3 years of my life
$200.
for $125. You know?
That's your price. That's not street price. That's your price.
Well, when you that's how much you were buying a ball for at the time. It was like 125. Well, no, because
Oh, I see what you're
actually
saying. Okay.
it was a little bit more because a drought had hit. So
Mhm.
everything had jacked up in price.
Oh, I see. Yep.
Because you were getting an ounce for 900.
Damn. See, and that's so I'm like, I've talked about this with my best friend. You know, she loved Coke back in the day. She's been clean 3 years now, for almost four. And definitely my best friend when it comes to, same DOCs and all same kind of upbringings, all that kind of shit. And we're very close. And we've talked, like what happens if we would ever try this again or that again? And well, we would have to do it together, and all this kind of stuff. It's more like it's not planning; it's more like just bullshitting, And the end of the conversation is always end the same. Afraid fentanyl is going to be in there and fucking kill me.
Yeah.
Like you
Yeah.
can't get coke like you could get coke back in the day. You
You
can't
weren't
get
even thinking that shit was laced back in the day. Your fear
yeah,
was doing too much, if anything.
yeah.
You were
That's what I mean.
I never had a fear of anything being inside of the shit that I bought. Like
Hmm.
maybe sometimes with weed, if I got too high, I might get like paranoid and be like, "What the fuck was there some shit
Yeah.
in there?" But you know, yeah, no, it's not even a thought that like I'm talking to my cousin a lot, and he's an addict.
Mhm.
And he came up here a few years back, like during the pandemic, and I was telling him, I was like, "Bro, his thing was like coke and crack," and I was like, "Bro, you can't fuck around up here."
Yeah.
Like, because up here, he came up from Florida, and I was like, up here, motherfuckers is dying off that shit.
Hmm.
They're dying off of fake pills, they're dying off of coke. And one of our friends that we had actually saw not too long after that, he died from coke that
Hmm.
had fentanyl in it.
Yep. That's what I
So
mean, man. I would be, even if shit hit the fan, like shit just hit the fan on my wife and I, and we worked things out, luckily, and I'm staying. But like, I had no inkling in my mind of like, I'm gonna go be by myself and just get high. Because no, I'm not, because I don't want to die. And
yeah,
I'm not afraid of a relapse that's going to keep me high or cause me to spend money. Like those aren't things I'm afraid of in a relapse, or losing family or friends. I've been an addict for a long fucking time. I've lost a lot of people. That's not something that's ever on my mind when it comes to a relapse. When you're about to relapse, all you're thinking about is yourself. Let's be honest.
yeah,
But at the end of the day, I'm afraid to relapse because I don't want to die. And
yeah.
I don't know what the fuck is in cocaine or pills these days. It's just Simple as fucking that. Like, my thing was Perk 30s, Roxy 30s. They don't exist anymore, bro.
I was gonna say Roxy. I don't think Roxy's are even around anymore.
I would have to go to a hospital and get a script for Roxy 30s, and then go fill them at the pharmacy, and that's how I can get Roxy 30s again. But if I would get them from a dealer, they're going to be pressed 30s. They're going to be the M boxes on there, and they're going to be fake as shit. It's going to be fentanyl.
Yeah, it's going to be a vet. So what a lot of people are doing now that I noticed. I actually worked at a detox center for a while, and nobody who came in. I was doing intakes, so when you do the intakes, person comes in, they tell you what they're detoxing from.
Yep.
Everybody in there whose thing that I did, there was always alcohol and fentanyl. Not a single person ever said heroin.
Yeah.
Because what they did is, instead of risking going to buy dope and getting fentanyl, they were like, well, I'm just going to do the fentanyl.
Yep.
So that way I don't go get dope expecting dope and getting fentanyl. Right. So everybody just switched over to just doing fentanyl.
Yeah. Yeah, it's so fucked out there, dude. And I don't want to be part of that scene anymore. It's as simple as that. Like, when I had my relapse last November, it was a 9-day relapse. And, I had just quit smoking cigarettes, and I needed an escape, like I was like feeling like I needed an escape. And so I hit up my drug dealer, which was my psychiatrist. And, I was just like, hey man, like, and I had been clean off benzos for like 8 months at this point. Benzos, once again, I was getting Valium prescribed to me legally and just abusing the shit out of them. So on April 1st of 2024, I quit benzos and I quit weed. And it was the first time I quit weed since I was 13. I was like, fuck it, I'm just done with weed. It's not serving me anymore. I'm spending too much money on it. I'm smoking all day, every day, and it's not giving me the effect. It's not doing shit for me anymore. It's just, and I still haven't smoked weed. It's been, 16, 17 months, and I still have no urge to smoke weed. I just think I'm at that point in my life at 39 that it served its purpose for me in my 20s and in my teens. And I had fun with it while it was there. But, at this age, like, maybe I'll smoke with a grandkid eventually in my 60s, but like, I have no urge to smoke some weed right now at 39 years old. It's not going to do shit for me. But I hit up my psychiatrist and I said, hey, I quit smoking cigarettes, but work is stressing me out and I need something to take the edge off. And he said, well, I'll prescribe you Valium. And I said, nope, not strong enough. And straight up, this is what I said to my psychiatrist. Like, he's no longer my psychiatrist because I got away with everything with this dude. I walked all over him. And I said, no, that's not strong enough. And he's like, okay, I'll give you Xanax, 1 milligram, 90 of them. I said, okay, sounds good. And he sent it in. Within 5 days, that script was gone. Within 5 days. So I hit him.
And that shit will kill you. The withdrawal will kill you.
What?
That withdrawal will kill you.
100%. Yeah. Alcohol and Xanax can kill you.
Yep.
And I'll tell you what happened. So then, within 5 days, I hit him up. I'm like, they're gone. They weren't strong enough. I need something stronger. He's like, okay, here's another 92 milligram ones, the bars.
Damn. Remember the faux bars?
Mm-hmm.
Those were shit. Yeah, those were. I never messed with them, but I came across them a few times, and I was like, this is fucking. You take one because right now I take Klonopin for anxiety, but I've been taking it for the past 10 years, but I take it as prescribed. Like, I take a 0.5 a day as needed. So there might go a week or two that I don't even take it. It's just if I start to have anxiety, I'll take one. And I've been taking it for so long, I don't get withdrawals. If I don't have it, like when I lived in Florida, I went a whole year without them, never got withdrawals. Nothing. It just sucks to have to deal with the anxiety if you have anxiety attacks or something like that.
Well, what happened was he gave me the bars, and then I was just eating them all day, every day for like 3 or 4 days. Because like I said, this was only a 9-day relapse. I'm off work on Wednesdays, and Tuesdays I work 7 to 6:30, and I work from home. all day long while I was working. I was popping them. One here, one there, maybe once an hour. I'd pop one. So go through 12 on a 12-hour shift of bars. And then I was like, now it's 7 p.m. And I'm like, well, I'm off work tomorrow. I can get even more high if I want to. I got no responsibilities tonight. Yep. And I did 20 between 7 p.m. and 7 a.m. bars. My wife woke up at 7 a.m. to get her kid ready for school, and I was like overdosing in bed. And they got me to the hospital on time, and I had to stay at the hospital for 4 days to use what's that shit called, Barbitrol or Verbitrol or some kind of
cold shit they give you.
It's the medicine to give you off benzos safely.
Oh, okay. I thought, because I know some people when they overdose, they give you that charcoal shit you have to drink.
Yeah, I know that I took too. The only thing I remember from the hospital is when they put the catheter in. Unfortunately,
that's like the one part you want to forget.
So I was in the hospital for 4 days, and then and everyone hated me. Family, wife, kids, everyone hated me. Mom, brother, sister, everyone's upset with me. Apparently I said I was trying to kill myself. Don't remember that. But, when you say that in a hospital setting, they're like, all right, psych ward. Yep. So I was in the hospital. I was in a hospital for 3-4 days coming off the Xanax safely. And then I got sent down to Philly about 2.5 hours south of me. And I was in that psych ward for 3 days. I did a 72-hour hold. And that was my first psych ward experience. I had done rehab, but that was my first psych ward. And man, I would wish I could do rehab again over a psych ward, because fuck that. Like, I was in there with criminals that were just like there serving time, because they were doing like a psych stay instead of going into jail kind of, deal. Yeah. I was there with homeless people that were coming off the streets and shit. Like, and there was only one other addict in there, and is my buddy that I'm still friends with to this day. He was on my show a couple weeks ago. My buddy Matt, him and I became boys, and we're still friends to this day. And it's besides him and I, the other 25 people that were in the psych ward, they were there for psych. So and I'm bipolar, but I don't need a psych ward. Maybe sometimes I do, but
yeah. It's a different experience. I did one when I was real young. I was in the adolescent thing. I went there at like age 7.
Mm-hmm. Damn.
So that was an experience.
Yeah.
That was funky times.
Yeah. And the bitch of it was, when I relapsed on Xanax, I ended up relapsing on smoking cigarettes because I was so high all the time. I needed a cigarette. So I ended up smoking cigarettes anyway. And then you can't have cigarettes in a psych ward, so you got to use the patch the whole time you're in the psych ward. And so I finally quit smoking cigarettes on January 1st as a New Year's thing. I smoked my last cigarette like 1:00 in the afternoon on January 1st through the pack out, and it'll be 8 months September 1st without a cigarette.
Fuck yeah, man.
And smoking 2 packs every day for 25 years. So I'm definitely
most I ever did was a pack, but that was like when I would be drinking. That wasn't like a daily thing. My daily was like half of that.
No, bro, I was a pack to 2 packs a day for 25 years.
Yeah, my cousin was doing that shit. He came to stay with me, and I actually quit smoking about 4 years ago. Oh, nice. I dip now, which I mean, we'll say it's just as bad, but like it's nowhere. Yeah. I don't have breathing like you know what I'm saying? Yeah. Like I don't have the issues I had when I was smoking, man. Smoking and dipping are 2 completely different things. I know it's just as bad.
Nicotine is technically healthy for you by itself. Without the tar and
in smaller in smaller doses and stuff.
Like I've thought about fucking around with Zyn, the pouches.
Yeah.
I've thought about fucking around with them, but at the same time, I don't want to get nicotine. I'm too young in my recovery from cigarettes to start giving myself some nicotine. I feel like if I put myself any nicotine, I'm like, well, I want a fucking cigarette now. So I'm like staying away for now and just gonna cold turkey it like I have been. I talk about that shit in NA just like it's a drug. When it's on my mind, I talk about it. Do you do a program?
I do meetings here and there. Yeah. To be honest with you, man, the way meetings were always set up always made me want to use. Like I started going to meetings and it's like everybody's just there telling war stories and stuff. Yeah. Like, oh, I'm not gonna believe how fucked up I used to get. And I was like, dude. So basically, my program when I stopped using, I use it. I replaced other shit with drugs. I mean, I replaced drugs with other shit. Because what I was doing at the time, I was replacing other shit with drugs, so I just went the other direction with it. I started doing things. I picked up a guitar, started playing guitar, because I just one day randomly I was just like, you know what, I could buy a guitar on Amazon right now and watch YouTube videos, and that's what I did. Then I started getting more into like my mother's really into like holistic healing and all that stuff, and she's a master Reiki and all that. So I started getting into like Buddhism.
Looking into my wife does, the Recovery Dharma.
Yeah, that's what this is right there. So
Recovery Dharma? Oh, Buddha, yeah.
Yeah, okay. It's like Buddha right there.
Yeah, my wife converted because they do they're in recovery too. And they wanted to do meetings, but they didn't want to do, I say they're non-binary, they them. They didn't want to do AA because their dad's got 34 years, old timer, still goes every day, and it's just they're turned off by AA. They weren't into drugs, so NA is not their thing. You know, they were an alcoholic. And then they found Recovery Dharma, which is a Buddhist approach to recovery, and they've been doing that. You know, right now, literally, they started a bunch of meetings. Right now, they're wrapping up a meeting that, you know, they started, you know, a year ago, and now 30 people come up to it every Wednesday at 7. So, you know, it's, you know, it's been amazing for them, and I love to see their growth, you know, Recovery Dharma. It's not for me because you know, and eventually they got, you know, I don't know, initiated, I don't know the fucking words, but, you know, into Buddhism, you know, and so anointed, I don't know the wordage, but yeah, that's their thing now. And I support that. They support my NA. I do NA 7 days a week. I do it on Zoom, and I do it out of a meeting based out of Santa Cruz, California, every night at 9 p.m. And we actually have a rule that you're not allowed to say your DOC. You're not allowed to say DOCs in our meeting.
Okay.
Because it's too triggering. You know, we want you to talk about the solution, not the problem, in our meetings.
That's yeah. So I have a meeting that I go to out here every now and again. I'll pop up at a meeting, you know. But that's the same thing with them. They're kind of like, it's more about the solution, not about like the war stories and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So I like that. You know, I like to sit down and talk about how you fix the problem, not what the problem was. Because everybody can go back and forth all day with, oh man, I was on the streets and sucked 42 dicks to get some crack. Like, no, I don't fucking care, bro.
And everyone wants to one up each other. Everyone wants to one up their war stories. Like, you know, and it's like, I'm not, I can watch a movie with all these war stories. You know what I mean? Like, I don't need to hear your war story. Like, my show is all war stories. Let's be honest.
Right.
But, you know, at the same time, like, that's my point. If I want a war story, I can go to watch a podcast where people are doing this. When I'm trying to get recovery, I'm going to go to a meeting where people are going to talk about the solution and how I stay clean and sober, and not, you know, how I got clean and sober, and not why.
Not what I was doing when I was high.
Yeah, exactly.
No, fuck why you're here.
Yeah.
Show us how you're staying sober, you know? But
let's pop back to this B&E, bro. How old were you when this B&E happened? What happened? Tell me about that night.
Oh, man, that was a crazy night. So that night, the whole night itself, the whole day itself was insane. It started off with day drinking. I ended up coming across...
How old are you? Set the scene for me a little bit. How old are you?
So I was 20 at the time. Okay. 20 or 21. I think I was 21. Because it was right before I caught the trafficking charge. It was like that. I caught the trafficking. Yeah, so I was 21 because I got the trafficking charge in April. I mean, I caught the trafficking charge in September, but right before that, in April, I caught the home invasion charge. Okay. So I was hanging out downtown. At the time, I was homeless. I was living with my kid's mother, but me and her, when it was one of those situations where it was like, oh, you get mad, then it's oh, get the fuck out of my house, and it's like, fine, bitch, I'm gone. So
Yeah.
I had done it so many times that I already had a crew of people that I knew from like the homeless shelter up the street because I would
Mhm.
just go there because I had nowhere else to go. So I ended up meeting, a few people. My boy Josh, he's not here anymore. My boy DJ, and we were all hanging out and doing our thing. I ended up meeting with my boy that I hadn't seen since I lived in Middleborough when I was like 15. So I was like, "Damn, what up, bro? I ain't seen you in like 5, 6 years. What you been up to?" Da, da, da. And we were hanging out with him, drinking, doing our thing. And I ended up splitting off and going. I don't remember what the full day happened. I remember we almost got stabbed. We almost got into a fight. We almost ended up stabbing somebody. And then, and then later on that night, I ended up going over to my another one of my boys' houses, and we're all sitting there hanging out. And he was like, "Yo, my boy in this dude in the house behind us, he owes me like 8 grand." And at this time, I'm drunk. I've been drinking all day long. He's like, "Dude behind me owes me 8 grand. Let's go bust up in there, and if we can get the money, I'll split it with y'all." It's like, "I'll keep half. Y'all keep the other half." I was like, hell yeah, I'm broke, homeless, got nothing right now.
Yeah.
Four
And,
bands split
and
between me and one other person.
and you were an addict at the time, right?
Huh?
Were you an addict at the time? You were
Yeah,
a coke addict. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. Well, no, at that time, so the coke thing was more like in high school. After I left the island,
Okay.
it was mainly just alcohol.
Okay.
I would do it here and there when if I felt like it, but the main thing was like the alcohol and weed. That was like the big ones.
Mm.
So I was like, yeah, let's do it. So I busted. We ended up
We're getting him back. We just lost him for a second. He's coming right back, everybody. Just hang on tight. Appreciate your patience while we get him back on here. There he comes.
My bad.
No, you're
Somebody called me.
Yeah, that's what I figured. I've seen that happen.
Yeah. But so we ended up going to get a bottle. I remember because I never drank this again after that until like way after the fact. But Bacardi Gold. Yeah. So we ended up getting a bottle of Bacardi Gold, and we gathered all the weapons we could find at this house. Baseball bat. I think somebody had a curtain rod. We rolled up into this guy's house, and it was just kind of like, "Yo, give me the money." Yeah, and he was like, "We don't got no money." So I ended up going around looking, and we ended up leaving with nothing. But my boy and the dude who initiated the whole thing, uh, he got his baseball bat. He had a baseball bat. He got it taken away from him. Like him and the dude was struggling in the living room together. I'm around the house looking to try to find what I can find. They end up struggling with the bat. The guy gets the bat from him, and I'm not aware of it at the time that he got the bat from him. He hits me in the back of the head with the bat. So I got hit one time, boom, and I was like, "Did this dude just hit me?" Hit me again, bow. The second time, I'm like, "Okay, yeah, he did hit me." So we ended up running up out of the house. It was just a whole clusterfuck of nonsense. Man. It was like the dumbest, stupidest, most drunken nonsense home invasion I've ever done. Well, that's the only one, but it
The
was just
only one. Yeah.
one of the stupidest things I ever done in my life. And like all because now when I'm sitting here sober thinking about it years later, what's the chance this guy just had $8,000 just sitting in his house?
Just chilling with it. Yeah.
Just chilling with it, like and we decided, but being drunk, being young, being going, the time I was homeless, and in my mind, I was thinking, that's a come up for me and my son.
That's the thing
Like,
is you hear those dollar signs, bro, and that's all you hear.
that's all I cared about.
Yeah.
I was like, this is going to be a
Yeah.
come up for me and my son. I'll be able to get a car and a place,
Mm-hmm.
and if I take a couple bit, because back then like you can get a car for like
1,200 bucks.
thousand. Yeah,
Yeah,
like $200, $300, even a 500. Then you
yeah,
1,500 will put this. Back then was first, last, and security on, on a cheap ass place. Something. In
yeah.
reality, it probably would have went to drinks and weed. Some of it at least would have, But still, either way, it was a come up. So that's what I was thinking. But yeah, what ended up happening was I guess the guy. It was a weird situation. So the day of the trial, they walked me up the stairs. I go and they walked me into the holding cells. I'm sitting downstairs because I'm locked up at the time for the trafficking charge when I ended up going to trial for this. So they bring me to the holding cell. I'm sitting in the holding cell, and my lawyer comes up to me, and my lawyer was like, "I've never seen this happen before in my life." He said the judge came to me with a deal, not the DA. The judge
Yeah.
came to my lawyer with a deal and said if I copped out to the assault and battery with a deadly weapon, um, and B&E, they'll drop it down to B&E nighttime. They'll give me 6 months concurrent with what I was already serving for the violation of probation. I was doing a year, so it would have ran concurrent with it. I was like, hell yeah, 6 months. I'm looking at 18 to I think armed home invasion was like 18 to life or something like that.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, they don't fuck around. They don't fuck around with
they
that, bro.
don't. They don't. The judge came
They
on. The
shouldn't. Let's be
judge is the
honest.
one
They
who came
shouldn't.
with the deal. No, they shouldn't at all. It was a
Yeah.
stupid thing I did. And so I guess the reason behind it, because I asked my lawyer, I was like, why? And I guess the dude who I did it against had an extensive rap sheet of like very similar charges and had been in front of this judge and I guess had, beat
Some beef.
charges. Like, so the
Yeah.
judge looked at it as like, this guy got what he deserved. So it was kind of like the judge's way of getting back at him. Because when I went up there, before I even came into the courtroom, I already knew this was about to happen. They're ready to start trial. And the judge said, we came to an agreement. And the DA and everybody was like, wait, what? And I see the cops in the back. So the way that they have to go up to the courtroom is you
Yeah.
have to take an elevator up to the courtroom. So when I take the elevator upstairs, I walk past the cops and I was like, there's a bloody baseball bat inside of a bag with some gray sweatpants and a black shirt. I was like, that's my blood. Those are my clothes. Like, I was like, damn, man, they took my clothes. I didn't even know that. But they because they wanted my boy at the time. The one so they caught me and they caught the main dude, but they didn't catch the third guy, which was one of my buddies that I was with. And they were like, yo, we want that guy. We want that guy. Give us his name because we know he's the one who hit the guy with the baseball bat. So they were like, give us that guy. And I was like, nah,
No.
I'm not doing that.
Yeah.
And so I took it to trial. To this day, me and him still talk about it. I was just talking to him the other day. I was like, bro, you owe me for the rest of your life, bro. Cause I took a home invasion charge for you. Bro. I could have walked away that night. But we get up to the courtroom and they're like, the cops are in the back. They got all the evidence in the bag. The dude and his girl are sitting right behind me. And the DA is sitting over there with their papers, ready to go, ready for this trial, ready to, give me my time or at least get the process started. And the judge is like, yeah, we came to a deal. We're going to do 6 months B&E nighttime and not armed mass home invasion, assault and battery with a deadly weapon. And the only thing I remember is, you ever see those courtroom things where like everybody's like, or like everybody starts reacting at the same time? When they said 6 months, the chick behind the dude's girl behind me was like, what? And then because she was pissed, she was like, traumatized at the time. I'm like, well, and me being the dickhead that I was, I turned around like, because she yelled it. So when I turned around, I looked at her. I have this thing, I don't know what the hell it is. And so it reminds me of the Joker. If you ever seen the Joker movie, how he laughs at inappropriate times. I have this thing where sometimes I'll smile at inappropriate times when like bad shit happens. And I turned around and I smiled at her. And I was like, oh, like I wasn't smiling in like a freaking, in like a diabolical way. It was just like I have this. I don't know why I do it. It's a weird thing that sometimes I'll smile during like horrible situations, you know. But the DA is like clamoring through his papers, and he's like, "I wasn't made aware of this deal." She's like, "You didn't have to be." I said, "I made the deal. We talked about it. We're good to go." And then when they took me back downstairs on the elevator, I remember they walked me past the cops that were holding the bag of with like bloody clothes and the baseball bat inside of it, and they were sitting there and they were like, "Can't believe this shit. We do all this work and get 6 months," and they're walking me to the elevator because they're about to hop on the elevator and go downstairs too. And they're talking, I walk up because they're bringing me downstairs to go to the holding cells, and they bring me down, and we're all in the elevator together. So they got real quiet. And then when they brought me off the elevator, I was just like, "Can't win them all." and I was like, that was my little retribution. That was me being a dickhead there, because they were mad. They were fucking 6 months, piece of shit. Like they were just talking major shit. Then when I got on the elevator, they were quiet.
Yeah,
didn't say nothing. So when I went down, I was like, "Can't win them all." Yeah. Brought me off the elevator, and
that's
then
awesome. You and I both, like I said, we have a lot in common. We you sparked my memory because I got away. I don't want to say get away because I put the work in, but like I got off of some charges that should put me away. I was living in Lancaster County, PA, and I was driving about an hour and 45 minutes each way to buy bulk pills 4 to 5 times a week. And because I had a really good job, I was running a plumbing company around, central PA, around Harrisburg, Hershey, Lancaster, central PA, and I was living out there with my dad and brother running the company, and so I was making ridiculous money that I could afford these 30s every day, not to shoot dope. So,
were you getting a 1,000 pack?
No, I wasn't. No, I've never touched heroin in 10 years because I was always
able. No, I'm saying you said you were picking up bulk. What were you picking up, like 1,000 pack?
No, I was picking up probably 20 to 30, 4 to 5 times a week.
All right.
I was spending like $1,000. I was
spending you were using them. In my mind, when you say bulk, my mind goes to drug dealing. So I'm thinking, he's picking up 1,000 pack and bringing.
This was for me using to get high with.
Okay, all right,
yeah. So, I would always have the same connect usually, because me and him were boys. He didn't like dealing with a lot of people. He would spot me all the time, and he would spot me so often that I had his bank account information. And when I got paid, instead of coming to Jersey, I would just go to his bank in PA and do a deposit. That's how close me and him got. The only thing is he ran a garage, and he would have to do tows all the time, like doing like car tows. Mm-hmm. And on this particular day, I think it was March 3rd of 2018. He wasn't around town, and like I was withdrawing bad, and I was like, "Fuck!" Like I gotta do something. So I hit up this dude that I hate hitting up because he's always like, he acts like you're putting him out by stopping by and buying pills off him. Like, bro, I'm buying 20 fucking pills. I'm giving you $600. Stop treating me like I'm buying 2 off you, bro. You know what I mean? Like, don't act like I'm buying 2 off you. I'm buying 20 off you, dude. I was like, I come through. He said, "Yeah, it's fine." And usually 98% of the time when I would go see him, because he was an addict too, he would let me do a couple off of his counter before I left because he knew I was driving there. So, and on this day, he said, "No, you can't. You got to bounce." And I just thought that was him just being his regular old dickhead self. So I just bounced. And I was driving across town, which is 5 minutes to my boy's house. And I'm on the phone with my girl arguing the entire way. So like usually I would do them in the car. But I was on the phone with her arguing the whole time. And I wasn't paying attention. I was being followed from that dude's house the entire way. They pulled me over in the school zone.
That's what they do. They'll wait till you get in the school zone, then hit you with the school zone charge because it's automatic 2 years.
So pull me over in the school zone, And my car is a mess, by the way, because like all I was doing was driving back and forth, buying pills, basically living up. You know what I mean? Like my car is a mess. You know, iced tea bottles, Coca-Cola bottle, all that shit. You know, and the cop rolls up, and you know he's like, "Can you get out of the car?" And I'm like, "For what?" And he's like, "Suspicion." And I'm like, "Yeah, it's fine. You can." And like, you know, it's March, so like I'm still wearing a hoodie. And I always have my hoodie sleeves rolled up, you know what I mean? And I put my Johns inside of my sleeve right here in my elbow and rolled them up. This way they weren't in my car or anything. And you know how it is when you get pulled over by one cop and they want to search your car, you gotta wait for cop number two. Yep. You gotta wait for cop number 2 to watch you. So, and I was like, by the way, I got an eighth of weed in my center console. I'll tell you that right now. You know, why not tell them that? You know, you just give them something, because that's not intent to distribute, you know, an eighth of weed. No.
And was this at the time when it was the Schedule 8 or Schedule 80, whatever it was, where the cops like they just take your weed, they wouldn't arrest you for it?
Okay. That happened to me in Massachusetts too, where I was at a concert and they caught me smoking joints, and they just took my cigarette pack full of joints already pre-rolled. So, and that was
That's still a bad day.
That was a bad day. I ended up smoking a bunch of fucking wet that day and tripping balls. What?
That shit. Yeah, I know that the dip.
Yeah.
Joint. Yeah. I never fucked with that. That shit would sound too crazy for me.
It's like smoking acid. It's like smoking acid, bro. You trip balls. And I was at a Blink-182 concert, and I was just tripping balls. It was pouring rain, and I had the time of my life. Anyway, so, you know, the cop was just like, okay, thanks. And my sleeves started falling on my right arm. And I'm like, fuck. And the cop's like, oh, I got you. And I was like, no, it's all right. He said, no, it's okay. And he grabbed my sleeve to roll back up, and he felt him in my sleeve. And he pulled him out like a fucking magician. And he's like, got him. We found him. So I got processed, and I was making good money. So I was able to process and bail myself and get released. And I'm a fucking drug addict. So obviously I knew that they followed me from this dude's house, right? But I obviously know that they just processed me, and they're all busy doing my paperwork. So what do? I go straight back to that dude's house and buy 10 more.
I was waiting for that part. I was waiting for that part.
2 weeks later, I did my I went to the preliminary hearing and to see what I was facing, and it was a laundry list, obviously, because it was intent to distribute in the school zones. I had 20 of them, it's all that shit, distribute them out. And they're like, you need to get a lawyer, this, that, and the third, come back in a month. And I was high as fuck in that courtroom that day. I barely remember anything. And then 2 weeks later, some shit happens, and I had that white light moment. Like, I'm done. I'm done doing pills. I'm going to go to rehab and straighten my life out. Nothing to do with court or getting arrested. I forgot about it, to be honest. I was on so many benzos and shit, like in pills and drinking. Like, I forgot, basically. And I decided to go to rehab. And on the plane, I was like, shit, I got court in 2 weeks. Like on my flight to rehab to LA. I got clean in Los Angeles. So on my flight out to LA is when I remembered I had court. And when I got there, I told the counselor person, and they, you know how it is, they call the courts, and they're like, he's under under us, and it's basically a hospital, and they can't do shit with you as long as you're under their roof. So I got out of going to court for a while. Cut to 9 months later, on my 9-month clean anniversary in January, I went to court for it, and I didn't have a lawyer because I wasn't going to pay a lawyer because I was guilty. I wasn't guilty of the shit they were saying I was guilty for, but I was guilty of having 20 pills on me, and I'm going to cop to that. And they want to put me on drug court. By all means, whatever you want to do. Like, I'm going to pass your fucking drug test. And so I talk, you know how it is. You talk to the DA outside the office in the hallway, and they go over everything with you and shit. And the lawyer usually talks to the lawyer. And in this case, they're talking to me. And I say, yeah, I was an addict. You know, there's pills I wasn't trying to sell to anybody. I was in the school zone because they followed me and they pulled me over in the school zone. I wasn't in the school zone with a sign selling pills. I was driving across town. They pulled me over and at the school zone. I was like, but I was getting high. I was getting really high, and I ended up going to rehab. And I'm 9 months clean today, actually. And they were like, oh, so you got in trouble, so you went to rehab because you got in trouble. I said, be quite honest with you, I forgot all about this charge until I was midair flying out to rehab. And they were like, wow, wasn't expecting that answer. Like, we thought you were going to bullshit us a little bit. I'm like, no, I don't. That's not how I live my life anymore. I'm an honest person now. I don't need to lie. And they were like, all right, well, what do you do for your program? I was like, I got sponsees. I got a sponsor. I work the steps. You know, I go to 2 meetings a day, yada, yada, all this shit. And they were like, and none of this is because you got in trouble. I said, no, it's because I want to change my life. No one asked me to go to rehab. I'm 32 years old now. I was 31 years old then. And I was just tired of the way I was living my life. And I wanted to make a change. So I put myself into rehab. No one asked me to go. They asked me to go in my 20s a lot. And I kept saying no. But when I was ready, I went. And I was ready then. And you can put me on your drug court. I'll pass all your drug tests. Whatever you want to do, I'm here to take it. And they're like, well, we weren't expecting any of this. We'll be right back. They go and talk to the judge. They drop it down to 20 unidentifiable pills. $765 fine, and that was it.
Fuck yeah. Hell yeah.
No lawyer, nothing. Just me being honest and, you know, working a program and just, you know, relying on like that higher power that I don't even know how to talk to sometimes, you know, but just saying, you know, I'm giving it up to that. You know, whatever happens out of my hands. I can't control it. I can just control what I'm going to do right now and make the next move, make the next right move. And
hell yeah.
Shit worked out, you know, and other people were getting mad time before me for having similar kind of situations. But all those people are going in there saying they're not guilty. And that wasn't them. And they were set up and they were giving all these excuses. And, you know, like we talked about earlier, I was coming in with a solution and not trying to justify my problem.
Yep.
So, you know, and I think they respected that. It's something they don't hear often. And, you know, when they said, where's your lawyer? I said, I don't need one because I was guilty. What? Who says that? Who says that to a DA? You know? So, you know, I wouldn't recommend not getting a lawyer for some of these situations, but it worked out for me. And it's part of my story now. That's for damn sure. So I love.
It was funny. The other day, I ran into my juvenile lawyer walking up the street. He came up to me with like a pamphlet. They were talking about like Palestine and Israel, like Gaza Strip. He was handing me a pamphlet, and I was like, "Yo, what's your name?" He's like, "Ross," and I was like, "You were my lawyer a long time ago." He's like, "Oh yeah, I recognize you." He's like, "How did I do?" I was like, "I was free, so you know,
I'm free.
Yeah, you did good, man. I'm not doing, you know, I didn't do as much time as I should have."
Yeah, that's awesome, bro. Yeah, I like talking to people like you because, you know, we both had to deal with a lot of different shit. We both grew up in the same kind of era, you know.
Yeah.
And where, you know, were you getting a lot of fights too back in the 90s? Like fist fights and shit? Or were you more of a talker?
I've always had the gift of gab.
Yeah.
I did my fighting here and there.
Yeah.
I wasn't a big fighter because
I stopped fighting like 8th grade. 8th, 9th grade is when I like stopped fighting, you know, and I started using my words instead of using my fists. I would say I was fighting a lot 6th, 7th and 8th really, and 9th grade. It kind of trailed off in 9th grade, and I haven't gotten no fight 10th, 11th, you know, and on to 39 years old. But middle school, junior high, fuck yeah. That's when I didn't know how to talk my way out of shit. And the only thing I learned how to do from my dad was to fight my way out of shit.
Yeah, I've been into a couple little squabbles here and there. A lot of times, being drunk and stupid. But because of my size too, a lot of times most people, a lot of people wouldn't want to fight me.
Well, it's hard to tell on this. How big are you?
I'm a big motherfucker.
No, I mean like tall wise. You tall?
Oh, I'm 5'10".
Okay.
Yeah,
All
I'm
right.
not big, not very tall, but I've always been stocky. You could always tell, like,
Yeah.
I got some weight behind me. Like, it's not,
Yeah.
you're not gonna. But no, I definitely been in a few situations. I'm not a big fighter because I got when I was younger, my brother and sister's father used to hit me and hit my mom. So that's fighting wasn't something that I like. I kind of when I do get into a situation where I end up fighting somebody, my mind turns into like it's a dangerous place because like I really want to hurt you badly. Like I
Yeah.
want to kill. Like in my mind, I want to kill you.
How
You
old
know,
were you when he was hitting you?
like
What?
5.
5?
I was young.
Yeah.
5. Yeah, I was young. Yeah, I was
Yeah. I
really
can't
young.
imagine hitting my 11-year-old,
So
let alone a 5-year-old. Like I'm a stepfather.
yeah,
And he's 11. I've been in his life since he was 5, and I can't ever imagine. And he's pushed my buttons quite a few times, but like I never even raised my voice to him, let alone hit him. Like I'm not a yeller. I've never yelled at anybody, even though if I'm really upset, I'm still gonna talk to you with this tone. I don't need to raise my voice to prove my point. You know what I mean? It's not gonna
yeah,
prove anything. So
yeah.
I
I
don't.
struggled with that because I was a yeller. That's how I grew up, and then like I
Mm,
tried to. It's part of like that mental health change,
yeah,
trying to switch things about yourself, and that's kind of one of the avenues that I've been going on with sobriety. I feel like a lot of the times people think that sobriety is the biggest issue. Like I yell because I'm getting high. I'm a mad person. I'm an angry person because I'm getting high. I'm a piece of shit because I'm getting high. Maybe you're angry, mad, and a piece of shit when you're sober,
yeah,
and you just happen to get high as well.
yeah,
Just because you got sober doesn't mean those things magically just go away. Maybe that's the person that
yep,
you were beforehand. I never got the chance to know who I was because I started getting high at age 13. I didn't
yeah,
stop for like 15, almost 20 years. Even then, I had, my drinking and stuff. I was sporadic on and off for years after that. And you never got to know who you were. So I can't sit here and attribute, be like, oh, I'm like this because I drank. I'm like this because I drank. Getting sober isn't a magical wand that all of a sudden, like, that's the one thing I didn't like about meetings and stuff too. Is every
mm,
time they talked about sobriety, they talked about it as if it was like this magical thing that just makes all your problems go away. And it's like,
mm,
no, that's not at all. Getting sober is awesome. Don't get me wrong, getting sober is fucking amazing. Great. It's
yeah,
one less thing that you have to worry about. But that still doesn't mean you don't. There's people who never touched a drink in their life that are rageaholics.
yep,
They don't know how to, they're not emotionally educated. They don't know how to deal with their emotions. They don't know how to deal with other people's emotions. They don't know
mm,
how to deal with loss. They don't know how to deal with anger. They don't know how to deal with trauma. So just because you're getting high doesn't give you like a key that, all of a sudden, like all these things are going to be better,
yeah,
and that's one of the things that I had to learn going forward. Like, all right, you know what? Me getting sober, I'm still an asshole.
yeah,
I'm still a dick. I'm still get mad, very short temper, stuff like that. I still have a violent streak. Not now. I'm just saying at the time
mm,
when I was thinking it.
yeah,
And you know, to this day, I still do get mad. I still do yell. Me and my son, we butt heads because it's like I'm giving you knowledge that I know. I'm watching you do some stupid shit, telling you what's gonna happen, and then you turn around and do it, and it's like, the fuck did I tell you was about to happen?
yeah,
So me and him will butt heads, and like sometimes a couple times I got into a yelling match with him about it. But it's like I learn even after I do something like that. Like a lot of times growing up, we were getting told we're stupid.
yep,
What the fuck is wrong with you? You're fucking dumb. Da 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 da. I don't talk to my kids like that.
yeah,
I won't be like, oh, you're a fucking idiot. I'll be like, you're doing idiotic shit. I don't go
mm,
out of my way to make you feel stupid. And then after the fact, I always tell you shit. Like if I do lose my temper, like last night, me and my daughter got into a situation where I lost my temper. I called her up today, explained to her why, and told her I was sorry, tell her I love her, stuff like that. Same with my son. Well, me and my son, we don't always see eye to eye. Sometimes I'll, lose my shit. But I tell him afterwards, listen, this is the reason why. Now that we're calm, this is the reason why. I see what you're doing. I see where it's going. My job as a parent is to want better for you.
Yeah.
My job as a parent isn't to sit here and be like, oh, watch this stupid shit that's about to happen. Yep.
Yeah, my job as a parent is not to be your boy and, on your bullshit.
Yeah, we're not going to be. That's what you have friends. You like your friends because they don't call you out on your bullshit. Like your whole life, no one's called you out on your bullshit. You always able to do whatever the fuck you wanted to do. Now you have somebody here that's like, no, you're not going to do that.
That's how my dad was with me, and that's how I'll be too with Dominic. I agree. Yeah. Yep. And I'll end with this, and I'll let you end with something too. But like, you just reminded me. Oh shit! I had it. Now I lost it. Oh well. Yeah. Been a long day. It's been a long day. It's been nice catching up with you, bro.
Fuck yeah, man.
Everything you've been through, it still shows that you can get through it and have a good head on your shoulders. Be a good father, show up for your family today. And it's all like just proof of like not giving up on yourself. And that's what I was gonna say. We were talking, you were saying how just because you stop drinking or using doesn't mean you're not a piece of shit still. You still got to work on yourself. And, I said I went to Los Angeles to get clean. I was living in, like I said, East Central PA at the time, but I was from South Jersey. And I found a rehab in Los Angeles I wanted to go to. I didn't know anybody there. I knew nobody in Los Angeles.
Yeah.
And my mom's like, why don't you go to Florida? A lot of people from Jersey go to Florida from high school in your school. I'm like, I don't want to know anybody.
Yeah.
I said, I don't even know myself right now, Mom.
Yeah.
I started drinking at 11. I don't know anything about myself, and I want to learn who I am around people that I don't need to pretend to be somebody else around.
Or you're going to remind you of who you were.
Yeah. I want to go somewhere where I can completely find myself and learn who I am at 31 years old and, learn how to be a better person for you and Dad and Jess and Chris and everyone in the family and friends. And the only way I can do that is by going somewhere where nobody knows me and where I can learn who I am as a person and learn who I am as an adult and figure this shit out. And she was like, okay, I respect that. So, that's why I went all the way out 3,000 miles away. I love Los Angeles because I was doing a stand-up comedy at the time. And I'm like, I get to be around the comedian scene, and that kind of attracted me out there. But, at the end of the day, I wanted to go somewhere where no one knew me. And, to really start over fresh where I could, learn who I was because I didn't know how to do anything as an adult because I didn't learn how to do anything as an adolescent or a teenager in my 20s. They were all fuck around times.
Yeah.
No, but yeah, man, you got anything else that you wanted to say before you hopped off? Or are you good?
No, man, touch
everything you want to say. All right. Well, you're welcome back to any of my shows anytime, bro. It was great catching up with you tonight.
Fuck yeah, man. Glad you got clean, man. Congratulations, bro.
Thank you. I'm still working on it. You know what I mean? Have a nice night, Chris.
Yeah, you too.
See ya.